All right, here we go, another lunch break video. So today I'm going to talk about the theory of everything, or combining all three phases of physics. Back during Einstein, when he was creating the theory of relativity, back then they knew what the nucleus of an atom was, or they thought they knew what it was, and what they couldn't understand is how the electrons in the electron cloud, which are positive, and the proton, which is positive, how it is that the electrons were staying in the electron cloud and not repelling, because obviously a positive and a positive would push each other apart. So they came up completely made up, but it was just their best guess, right? And that has been the doctrine ever since. But they came up with the strong force and the weak force. They said the strong force is what actually holds the electrons close to the proton, but the weak force was a force that was pulling it away from the nucleus. And that's kind of how they had came up, and they didn't know how the forces were created. That's just what they came up with, and that became the doctrine. Well, about 2 years ago, there's a scientist. His name is Nassim Haramein, and he is a physicist. And so he was currently doing an experiment on the density of a black hole, and they were trying to measure and figure out mathematically what the density looked like. At the exact same time, there was a different, unrelated to him experiment going on, just complete coincidence that it happened to be going on, but they were trying to measure the density of a proton. And after everything, all the data was put together, when he discovered that they had figured out what the density of a proton was, he compared his mathematics with that, and they were identical. So what does that tell you? And the physics that he was using to combine everything, he said the only way that it works is if we're in a holographic universe. And so there is no strong force and weak force in the way that they described it. So again, let's go back to what we're talking about here. A proton, so then what is a proton? A proton is literally a miniature black hole. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny black hole, and that is what is in the nucleus of the atom. Something else I want to point out, atoms don't look anything like you've been taught with those circles that are wrapped around the atom and a geometric shape. They don't look like that at all. They're just wave conjugations. They're, even if you go down to the smallest unit, a quark, there's nothing there. And if you were to measure all the mass of all the humans on the planet, all the humans in the planet of actual mass would fit into one sugar cube. So when you think about the Milky Way galaxy, you look up any of the pictures you've seen of any of the galaxies anywhere in the universe. And what you'll always notice is the oscillation motion, right? Same with our Milky Way. Or another way to put it is your bathtub. When you're draining your bathtub and you see the vortex that comes, it is pulling in, right? It's sucking the water down the drain. It's pulling in. So what's happening and so the way that reality works, let's look at everything like a dot grid. And let's say that they are in cube shape. So everywhere, every space, there is a dot every millimeter, all right? Everywhere. And all these dots are everywhere, but they're like in these tiny little cubes, right? So they're all equidistant. So one proton is equidistant to the next proton or the next atom or molecule. And it's all plasma. But so what actually ends up happening is So what is the strong force? The strong force is the oscillation of the proton or black hole, however you want to call it. It's the oscillation that pulls inward. So the force, the reason that a positive and positive aren't repelling each other is because the vortex in the center that is oscillating is pulling the electrons towards the center. So then what is keeping the electrons, what is the weak force that is keeping the electrons pulling the other way? And what it is, it's the other protons. So the other protons are pulling, sucking in. I'll try to put this on my car, maybe. I can keep this up. Okay. So you have, let's just call the protons black holes for and understanding this grid, right? All these cube grids going everywhere. So everything is equidistant from the next. So when this proton is oscillating and pulling inward here, it's pulling out the electrons from the next proton over, and vice versa in every direction that you're going. So when we talk about the physics of everything, that is why that is why everything has to be a holographic universe. And it's because of the way that it's equispaced. Something else to consider. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Fibonacci sequence, right? It's a repeating decimal that continues to go over and over, and the repeating decimal just goes on forever and ever and ever, and it creates the spiral of creation, right? That spiral of creation is what your DNA is. And what does it do? It folds in on itself. That's how it perpetuates the energy and the motion, because it is folding in on itself. And what is all matter? All matter starts as a thought, as a consciousness form, and it comes down. It comes down to the third dimension. So, I don't want to go too far and go on too many rants here, so I'm trying to stay on task. But essentially, this is how everything is created. And for example, water, and everything is made up of photons as well. So water, what is water? Water is photonic energy without a template that it's attached to. So with humans, we have the DNA, right? And as we go into the crater Earth, concave Earth, and combining all that stuff, I'm going to show you how it's not coincidence that the zodiac is 360 degrees around us. It's not also a coincidence that the stars have different frequencies and they look different, and not what NASA shows you. But if you actually look at with like a Nikon or something at some of the ones that are close enough we can see, you'll see it's a cymatic shape that is changing, right? It's a cymatic shape. And that's because, and that's why I posted the star in the jar video, so you could see that when you combine frequencies into water, it creates light, and all light comes from sound. That's probably enough for today, because if I keep going, we will go off on some very crazy tangents, and we're not there yet. But I will get back to the other video once I have anyone tell me that they understand, and I will move forward as far as the shape of where we live. Hope you have a blessed day. Namaste.